Ladies, let me explain something that might confuse you at first, but if you listen closely, you'll understand the heart of it. Sometimes, when a man truly loves a woman, he disappears. Now, I know that doesn't make sense right away. We're used to thinking that love means presence, that if someone loves you, they should be around, calling, texting, showing up. And yes, that's how it should be in a perfect world. But life and love don't always operate in the perfect world. Sometimes a man who truly loves you backs away, not because he's playing games, not because he's done with you, but because he's trying to figure himself out. Men are wired differently. When we feel overwhelmed, confused, or lost, we don't always talk about it. We retreat. When something hits us emotionally, when we're faced with the weight of loving someone deeply, especially someone who brings us peace, joy, and a vision for the future we've never had before, it can shake us up. A man will disappear not because he wants to hurt you, but because your love is too important to mess up, and he knows deep down he isn't ready to give it what it deserves. That's a powerful thing. It's not weakness. It's a self-awareness, even if it comes out in a confusing or even hurtful way. See, when a man really loves a woman, he doesn't want to come to her broken. He doesn't want to bring his mess into your peace. He wants to feel like he's enough. And if he's dealing with insecurities, financial issues, emotional immaturity, or spiritual confusion, he might step back. He might isolate himself to face his demons in private. He disappears so he can confront himself, not so he can walk away from you. And in his mind, he's doing you a favor because he knows if he stays, he might damage you, hurt you, or even lose you by being a poor version of himself. You have to understand something. Men have been raised to believe that we must provide and protect. That's at the core of who we are. And if a man feels like he can't protect your heart or provide stability, he might feel like a failure before he even tries. So what does he do? He withdraws. He vanishes. He gets silent, not because he's a coward, but because he loves you enough not to ruin you with half versions of himself. Now, this is where the truth separates the players from the men. Some men disappear and never come back. They vanish because the love wasn't deep or the commitment wasn't real. Maybe they got scared and decided to run instead of growing up. Maybe they weren't ready and didn't have the heart to tell you. But a man who truly loves you, he doesn't disappear to leave. He disappears to build. He goes missing for a moment so he can come back better. And when he returns, you'll know. You won't have to guess. You won't have to chase him for answers. He'll come with accountability. He'll tell you why he left, what he worked on, and what he wants now. But let me be very clear. This does not mean you should wait around for a man to figure himself out while you put your life on pause. No, you keep living, you keep glowing, you keep building your world, because love doesn't mean you abandon your own growth waiting on someone else's. If he's meant to be in your life, he'll come back and fit into the woman you're becoming, not the woman who stood still hoping he'd return. It's hard when someone you love pulls away. It's confusing and painful. You question your worth, wonder what you did wrong, and ask yourself if it was ever real. But sometimes it was too real. That's what scared him. That's what made him reflect. And if the love was true, he's not just disappearing, he's evolving. He's working behind the scenes to become a man who can love you in action, not just words. And here's another truth. Sometimes the disappearing isn't just about him, it's about you too. It's about you realizing what you deserve. It's about you understanding that love that comes with inconsistency isn't enough. You learn that your heart deserves communication, effort, presence. And while he's away, you get stronger. You begin to see clearly. You start asking better questions, not why did he leave me? What? Is he capable of loving me the way I need? A man's disappearance doesn't always mean he's gone forever. Sometimes it's the start of something deeper, but it's only meaningful if he returns with growth. Otherwise, it's just silence. And you're not meant to build a life in silence. If he loves you, he'll come back with action. If he doesn't, you just got your answer without wasting more time. Real men come back when they've grown. Real men explain. Real men build. So yes, sometimes if he truly loves you, he disappears, but only to come back better. It's one of the most confusing things a woman can experience, being loved deeply by a man, seeing the signs, feeling the connection, and then suddenly, without warning, he disappears, he pulls back, he stops calling as much, he stops texting, he creates distance, and your heart is left wondering, if he truly loved me, why did he walk away? But what most people don't understand is that a man's love doesn't always show itself in the way women expect. Sometimes a man's silence isn't because he stopped loving you, it's because that love scared him, challenged him, or forced him to confront parts of himself he wasn't ready to face. Men are taught from a young age to suppress emotions. We're told to be strong, not cry, not show weakness. So when love comes in and starts unraveling that emotional wall, many men don't know what to do with it. They panic. They go inward, and sometimes they disappear, not because they want to leave, but because the depth of the love is more than they know how to handle. A real grown love demands presence, communication, vulnerability, and consistency. But if a man doesn't feel emotionally prepared to give that, he might choose to distance himself. And he does it not out of cruelty, but out of fear and inadequacy. There are moments in a man's life where he meets a woman who makes him want to be better, not because she asks him to change, but because her energy, her standards, and the way she carries herself shines a light on everything in his life that's still broken. That kind of woman doesn't come around often, and when she does, she doesn't have to say much. Her presence speaks volumes. A man who sees the future in her but knows he's not ready for that future will often step away. And ironically, that step back can be his way of showing respect because he doesn't want to pull her into a relationship he's not equipped to nurture. It's hard for women to understand this because they often show love by drawing closer. Women tend to want to talk through things, to work them out emotionally. But men often process pain and confusion through silence. We step back to make sense of things, and when a man loves you and sees that love becoming serious, life-changing serious, it's not unusual for him to go quiet. He's not ghosting you. He's not playing games. He's overwhelmed, maybe for the first time, by how much this love requires of him. Now, let's not confuse this with the behavior of a man who disappears simply because he's selfish or immature. There are men out here who vanish because they never intended to stay. They came for fun, for attention, for ego, or for the thrill. When that fades, they're gone without explanation, and they don't return. That's not love, that's manipulation. But when a man truly loves a woman, when he values her, when he respects her, and he still disappears, it's often because he doesn't yet love himself enough to feel worthy of her. In that space of separation, he may be battling himself. Maybe he's asking if he can afford to build a future. Maybe he's questioning if he can commit without hurting you. Maybe he's realizing the trauma he never dealt with is still haunting him, and he doesn't want to project it onto you. So he takes a step back, not to abandon you, but to protect you from a version of him that isn't healed yet. That's a form of love too, even if it doesn't look like it. But here's the catch. Love that disappears only matters if it returns stronger. If he disappears and doesn't work on himself, if he returns with the same confusion, the same excuses, the same half-hearted effort, then it wasn't love. It was fear dressed up as emotion. But if he comes back after that silence with clarity, with commitment, with a plan, then that disappearance was part of his transformation. You'll be able to tell the difference not by his words, but by his actions. Has he grown? Has he dealt with what pushed him away? Is he ready to love you from a place of strength, not survival? It's not your job to fix a man while he's figuring himself out. It's not your role to be available while he sorts through his doubts. If he truly loves you, he will do the work without requiring your emotional labor. You're not a rehab center for broken men. You're a whole woman deserving of love that doesn't vanish when things get deep. Let him disappear if he must, but don't put your life on hold waiting for his return. The truth is, when a man disappears, it gives you a gift too. It gives you clarity. It gives you space to focus on yourself, to grow, to heal, to ask yourself what kind of love you want moving forward. Sometimes his absence teaches you more than his presence ever did. And if he comes back and he's the man you deserve, you'll know. And if he doesn't, then you avoided investing in a future that would have drained you. Disappearance isn't always the end. Sometimes it's the middle of a process. But it only means something if it ends in transformation. Otherwise, it's just delay. And you're not meant to be delayed. You're meant to be loved fully and fearlessly. So if he truly loves you, yes, he might disappear, but only to return ready, not reckless. Only to build, not break. And if he doesn't return that way, then the love wasn't as true as you thought. There's a strange irony in love that nobody talks about until you've been through it. It's the moment when everything feels right, when the energy is mutual, the chemistry is undeniable, the connection is deep, and then out of nowhere, he pulls away. He starts showing up less. He becomes quiet. The texts slow down, the calls become brief, and eventually, you're left wondering if what you felt was even real. It's in those moments that people tell you to move on, to forget him, that if he loved you, he wouldn't have disappeared. But that's where things get complicated, because sometimes the very reason he disappeared is because he loved you more than he knew how to handle. Men are often trapped in a silent war between who they are and who they want to be. And when they fall in love, especially with a woman who truly sees them, who believes in them, and who carries herself with strength and grace, it exposes their flaws. It brings their fears to the surface. Suddenly, they're not just thinking about dates or casual fun anymore. They're thinking about their past, their trauma, their future, and what it would take to love this woman right, that weight, that pressure. It hits different when it's real. And sometimes instead of facing it, they retreat. They go silent. They disappear, not because their love was fake, but because it was the first time love felt like a responsibility. Men are not taught to communicate their emotional struggles. Society trains men to push through, to stay silent, to act strong even when they're falling apart. So when they're met with a woman who creates a safe emotional space, it can actually terrify them. They don't know how to sit in that safety. They question if they deserve it. They doubt whether they're capable of maintaining it. And in that doubt, they back off. Not because they don't feel something, but because they feel too much and don't trust themselves not to ruin it. There are men who disappear not out of disinterest, but out of deep respect. They sense the weight of your heart, the beauty of your loyalty, and the way you see potential in them, and they don't want to fail you. They'd rather distance themselves than risk letting you down. But the mistake they make is assuming that silence is protection. It's not. Silence leaves questions. Disappearance leaves scars. And though their intention might have been to figure things out, they leave behind confusion, pain, and the feeling of abandonment. It's important to understand the internal dialogue of a man who disappears because of love. He's often battling thoughts like, am I enough for her? Can I give her the life she deserves? What if I mess this up? What if I'm not ready? He's not disappearing to play games. He's disappearing to escape those fears without burdening you with them. In his mind, stepping back is better than staying and failing. But in your heart, it feels like betrayal. And that disconnect is where so many women are left hurt by something they didn't cause. A man who truly loves you, even if he steps away, doesn't do it lightly. It's not something he celebrates. It eats at him. He watches from a distance. He thinks about you. He goes back to the moments, the laughs, the way you looked at him, the way you believed in him when maybe no one else did. And he knows what he's lost, or at least what he's risking. That's the kind of love that doesn't just fade. It lingers. It forces him to either step up or forever live with the regret of walking away from something rare. But here's the hard part. Love that disappears only matters if it returns changed. If he left confused but comes back with clarity. If he left fearful but returns brave. If he left immature but comes back grown. That love has value. That love might be worth another chance. But if he disappears and returns with the same fear, the same inconsistency, the same inability to be present, then he didn't grow. He just circled back out of comfort or guilt. And while he's gone, your role is not to wait. Your job is not to put your worth on pause, hoping he finds his way back. Your job is to keep growing, to keep becoming, to take the silence and turn it into self-discovery. Because sometimes a man's disappearance teaches you what kind of love you won't settle for again. It opens your eyes to how much you've been giving and how little you've been receiving. It reminds you that your love is valuable, but it's not a rescue mission. Love shouldn't hurt you with uncertainty. It shouldn't require you to prove yourself to someone who left. And if he truly loves you, yes, he may disappear for a time, but he'll return with purpose. He'll speak truthfully. He'll take accountability. He won't expect things to pick up where they left off. He'll be willing to earn your trust again. And if he can't do that, then disappearing wasn't a step toward healing. It was just avoided. Real love may walk away to heal, but it always comes back to rebuild. And when it does, it doesn't come with excuses. It comes with effort. If he truly loved you, his disappearance wasn't the end of the story. But how he chooses to come back or not will tell you everything you need to know about where you stand in his heart. There are times in love when the most painful thing you'll ever feel is not anger, not betrayal, not even heartbreak. It's confusion. It's not knowing why someone who once looked you in the eye and made you feel seen, safe, and wanted suddenly pulls back. He stops calling, he becomes distant, or he vanishes completely. And the question that haunts you isn't just where do you leave if he truly loved me? And that feeling can drive you crazy because you saw the signs, you felt the connection, and nothing seems broken. But what most people don't talk about is the quiet truth that sometimes when a man truly loves the woman, he disappears, not because he wants to lose her, but because he's terrified of not being enough for her. Men deal with emotion differently. While many women are taught to talk about feelings, to express pain, to seek closeness when things get serious, men are often taught the opposite. We're told to suppress feelings, to figure things out alone, to appear strong even when we're struggling inside. So when a man falls deeply in love, when he's met with a woman who truly sees him, who loves without judgment, who holds herself with grace, it triggers something deep inside. He may not know how to handle it. It's not that he doesn't want it. It's that it awakens fears and insecurities that were lying dormant, buried under ego and survival. When a man meets a woman who challenges him without trying to change him, who loves him with strength, but won't tolerate being disrespected, it forces him to look at himself. And sometimes that reflection is hard to face. He begins to question whether he's capable of being the man she deserves. He looks at his life, his past, his wounds, his inconsistencies, and he begins to feel pressure. Not pressure from her, but pressure from the weight of what it would mean to truly step into love, to commit, to be consistent, to communicate. And if he doesn't feel ready, if he doesn't believe he has what it takes, he pulls away, he disappears. And here's the part most women don't see. When he disappears, it's not always about her. It's not that she wasn't good enough. It's not that the love wasn't real. In fact, it might be the exact opposite. It might be because it was real, so real that it shook his entire foundation, and in his mind he thinks stepping back is better than pretending to be ready. It tells himself it's more honorable to remove himself than to damage something pure. But what he doesn't realize is that his silence still does damage, that his absence still leaves scars, that disappearing without explanation creates a wound that the woman has to heal on her own. Sometimes men vanish because they don't want to be the man who breaks your heart. They'd rather walk away than become the villain. But the absence still feels like betrayal. The disappearing act still forces you to question everything, and it's not fair. But the truth is, a man who truly loves you may need space to become the version of himself that can love you fully. He might disappear because he knows what you deserve and he can't give it right now. That's not weakness. That's awareness. But it only matters if he does something with that time, if he uses it to grow, to heal, to rise. A man who disappears because he loves you but returns unchanged, still emotionally unavailable, still inconsistent, that's not love. That's fear winning. That's comfort guiding him instead of commitment. But a man who disappears and comes back different, more grounded, more open, more accountable, that's a man who took the time to prepare himself for real love. That kind of disappearance had purpose, but you should never be the one waiting in limbo to see which version returns. You are not a placeholder. You are not someone to be put on pause. When a man steps back, let him. That's his decision.